Hey guys, I wanted to talk about a stock that I don't think anyone knows about really. They're not a small company necessarily, they've been around for a while. Um, and that stock is XYL, Xylem. So I'm talking about a water purification, a water management company, okay? It right here provides water, wastewater applications, full cycle of water from collection, distribution, use to return to the environment. So, as a conservationist, I can speak about this stock, um, kind of from experience. Okay, I've worked out west where with water is a limited resource. Okay, here's why this is going to be a important sector. We set up massive population centers in deserts. I mean, look at Phoenix, look at Oregon, and we do a lot of agriculture. Look at the the agriculture in California, how dependent upon water it is, and how limited rainfall. There's a lot of ways to manage this. Okay, you can manage snow capture in the mountains by clear cutting strips, so the snow will collect in those strips, stay shaded, and last, and so it'll melt slowly. What you want is a slow melt, so you have consistent supply of your river water throughout the season, rather than it just flooding, it all melting fast, it flooding you don't have access to it as long or as much. So and there's a ton of ways that we can conserve water and that we can manage water, and that's what this company is going to take advantage of. It's something that is going to be a need where we have I'm looking at Los Angeles, I'm looking at Phoenix, I'm looking at, frankly, the entire Middle East. I mean, other countries are way worse than us because we have mountains. Mountains is where you get your water, basically. Mountains get a ton of snow melt that lasts throughout the summer even, and that supplies your rivers. It all starts with mountains. Really, it's precipitation everywhere, drains, but mountains are going to be your key for managing the resource where it's limited, because usually you get deserts where there's mountains. That's how this works. It's an industry that I like, that I know is going to grow. The question is, how profitable will it be? Is this something that innately doesn't have profit? I mean, how much money do you generate by planting a bunch of native grasses so that, instead of having just a bunch of farmed land that's tiled and drained, all the water literally runs through the environment. It just runs through it. It's tiled, it's drained. That's how crop fields are. So in Iowa, in Illinois, in these Midwestern states where we have massive amount of crop fields, all the precipitation just runs off as flood events. And so you lose all of that sustained water supply through flood events. And in Iowa and the Midwest, we don't need to really worry about water. Okay, that isn't going to affect us, but it has some negative consequences. Streams weren't built for this flooding, so now they're eroding, getting bigger to handle it, and you're seeing massive loss of land because these streams are eroding. Literally, they're losing acres of land because it's eroding away, and it's incising and it's widening. And so there's a lot of problems that come with this that can be addressed. But how much profit do you gain by planting a buffer so that we're not, sending all of our waters? And here's the other thing about tiling. You get a lot of fertilizer in them, and you have to treat that water, and it costs millions of dollars. If you plant a buffer, the water gets filtered naturally. It returns the flood regime to a more normal state, which doesn't matter in the Midwest, but could matter. Let's talk out west on the West Coast or in desert areas. I'm not really too familiar with the climate and how that works there. I know the Midwest, though. So what I'm saying is, though, I don't think you generate money innately. Let me go convert some of your cropland to prairie to help conserve water, or let me go cut a strip, do a strip harvest up in the mountains to generate snowpack and hold it. How much does that gain? You could harvest, you get a little bit of money for the harvest out in the timber, but the real value isn't something we put a monetary value on, because it's got the real value comes at these countless environmental services that we get from high quality natural resources. Okay, you don't have to spend millions of dollars to treat the wastewater coming from the polluted Iowa streams to remove the nitrate. You don't have to do that. It doesn't cost you millions of dollars. The city of Des Moines had to build a water treatment plant specifically to address this problem, and then they sued the counties for polluting the streams. Essentially, it's very interesting. Minnesota put a buffer law along all streams. They made it law. So that right there, I think, is a good bridge to why I invested in a private company rather than relying on the government to do this. The government probably is going to do this, but the government likes to defer to private sector whenever possible. If the government just passes laws where you have to do this stuff, and then what they probably won't do but could do down the line is basically carbon credits we've heard of, environmental credits. So you get certain credits for doing certain things environmentally so that you can generate an income from them. Because otherwise, we just talked about the prairie strip, converting cropland to prairie. That doesn't really generate money. If you assign a credit to that, and then you can cash that credit in, you can trade it, you can sell it. We were talking about doing the same things with carbon emissions. Okay, I think they've done this before. I don't really know, but that's got to be the answer to global warming, because when you farm, when you pollute, you have an intangible impact, and we can start to account for that impact by like carbon pollution, creating greenhouse gases, soil erosion, habitat destruction. There's so many different characters the way you slice it. Like farming, you wouldn't think of farming as that horrible of a thing, right? It's one of the worst things in the world environmentally. All that habitat instantly lost and put into a monocultural culture, single species, one species of plant. So you had thousands of species gone, one species. That all that habitat loss has repercussions. You know, certain species die, it leads down the food chain, we have problems. All right, it has completely altered our drainage system. Now they've tiled everything to grow it. And so, like I talked about, you have flood regimes that are crazy. You have nitrate going straight into the waters. The streams are polluted. The streams are widening. And all of that costs us money because we're losing the land. We're losing production every year. We are having a bunch of cows that actually, yes, emit methane. People don't think that's true, but they don't know. Look at the research. Like, there's information that is factual, that is testable, that is provable. And people are just like, nope, I think that's wrong, and I know nothing about this subject, rather than listen to the experts or even try to test it themselves. There's so much environmental impact, and it all comes down to water. That's what it all comes down to, okay, guys? It all comes down to water. Water is the most fundamental thing to life, basically, right? That is a resource that is affected. I mean, air, I guess you could say, being polluted. Xylem does not deal with air being polluted, but it deals with water. That's the immediate threat. And we're already seeing this is a big deal out west. This is a big deal in the Middle East. Well, access to water is a big deal. And I think Xylem is a company that if certain laws were to pass and credits were to be formed, a new system were to be formed, this could skyrocket in value. And one of the reasons why I like it so much is you do get that 1.5% dividend. That's a fat dividend on a high growth company. I mean, you're gonna be able to reinvest that dividend in the company. Obviously, you're gonna want to fairly low PE ratio for a company that I think that's gonna explode in growth. It's kind of an underrated stock. I mean, we're talking 79, 94. I've seen a lot of stocks like quadrupling their fair market value according to Morningstar. I don't believe in that shit. We broke through this critical resistance here. I mean, you can see that kind of line of resistance right there. And we tested it. We went back down and we shattered it. And bro, people are sleeping on this. No, this is not a hot stock. People, look at its average volume. Okay, let's check it out. 500,000. That's nothing. Oh my gosh, 750,000, sorry. And for 17.5 billion market cap with a 78 PE ratio, bro, honestly, I could see this tripling. I could see this running up to $300. I could see this going the way of end-phase energy right here. I mean, if you saw what they just did, we kind of had this line of resistance back here, dropped down, broke through, shattered, consistent upswing, right? Giant fucking parabola. I mean, if you looked at this back in the day, this gain, it was a parabolic gain. It looked exactly like what we saw with what we just saw. It looked exactly like what we just saw. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So I think we're due for an explosion in Xylem. I think we're due for an explosion. I like to look at the past to predict future results. I like to look at the industry. I mean, we're about to go on an explosion, guys. Buy yourself some Xylem. Let's go.